come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Give praises to Jehovah, from whom all blessings, blessing and knowledge will flow. Blessing and knowledge will flow. The Village Talk Show, dedicating to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life, helping each one of us in realizing our dream at any age, any point, starting from today, day. Success. Come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Success is not spoken, it is done. Success is done. Come on now. The Village Talk Show. Talk Show. The Village Talk Show.
Welcome another evening at the Village. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Dedicated to success, making sure everybody is healthy, safe, and financially well. How you doing, John?
Blessed. You got one more day, Andre, before school's over, huh?
Well, unfortunately, I've been out of school all week because I sprained my ankle, so can't really walk right now.
Yeah, okay, Andre. Okay. How convenient you sprain your ankle a week before you got to get out of school. Okay, Andre. Okay.
Very convenient.
Okay. Very convenient, my friend.
I missed their graduation and all.
I know that hurts you missing the graduation.
Yeah, I heard that the students, the valet, is it valedictorian? Yeah, she was up there, and they talk about my bald head. So it was funny to hear talk about Mr. Dolman, even though we made you lose your hair off of your already bald head. So it's just like, okay, so, but highlighting, how I push them and just making sure that they don't, there's no joking around. You gotta be serious about education. So it was good to hear that, despite missing it, so it makes you keep going forward, But yeah,
that's important, man. This is tomorrow's the last day of school. Kids are graduating. Shout out to my man Filbert Giddings. His daughter Shiloh just graduated. Shout out to you, Filbert. Congrats on that. My daughter graduated a couple of weeks ago from Packer. She's heading to Northwestern University, study engineering. She's doing a thing, man.
It's amazing.
Yeah, kids are doing their thing.
Yeah.
Higher education is the way to go.
For real, man, for real. And one of the things I try to even stress really is that not necessarily not to worry about grades, because you want to make sure that your grades are good, but I always try to remind them that focus on learning, focus on the learning, and the more you engage in the learning, that grade will come on its own. As you go into college, it's the same way. You gotta push, learn the stuff, understand it, and the grades will come as you do that. So
no, that's true. And one thing I know, what's interesting is I think one of the movement towards getting rid of the Regents exams, which I don't particularly agree with respect to that. That in order for our kids to be successful, we need to challenge them. We need to make things easier for them, because the world out here is very difficult, and they're going to be challenged about a lot of different ideologies, and especially with this whole AI stuff. What's going on. You think it's going to make it's going to be far more competitive and you
Yeah.
have to distinguish yourself from everybody else to just get ahead.
Yeah.
But
Real.
yeah, so those are the things, but also it's not even that, AI can't take the place of our vocational trades and stuff like that. You know, plumber, electrician, carpenter. AI can't do stuff like that. So, you know, we have some students who are not academically inclined, but they can have vocational skills and earn the same or much more than those who have professional degrees.
It's interesting as you highlighted too, because the thing that AI, based on what we know right now, it might deal with like the processing, the computer processing and stuff. But I was watching a video the other day about this always is the case with technological advancements and innovation. People get worried and all that, but eventually there's gonna be some people who are not able to be in the spaces as much in a particular field. So like when the ATMs came out in I think it was the 70s or 80s, a lot
Right.
of people was just like, nah, we don't want to use the ATM, we want to go into the bank teller. And so for a while people weren't using the ATM, but the economy kept going further with them. Look at us now. We go, easy money to get out. You can't necessarily go to a bank all the time. You gotta go right around the corner to withdraw the money from the ATM. So, this AI race innovation is going to do something for the job market, but as much as it's taking, causing the loss of jobs, it's creating something new. And that's what's gonna be the new frontier. The young people, we gotta learn, we gotta understand, the information, understand the tech, leverage your talents and skill. But it's important, going back to education, that
That's
they
true.
really make
Very
sure
much so.
that they lock in.
Very much so. Very, very much so. Yeah. What do you think about to just divert, not even divert, we talk about this whole MOU with respect to the president and Iran. I do see one thing, the whole issue of the states being opened up, hopefully successfully, but at the same time, I have seen the prices of oil has come down. It
Oh
has.
yeah.
Now it's, for premium, I saw the lowest was on Utica, the lowest was on Pennsylvania Linden. It was 449.
Yeah.
449. Yeah, it was 440, 445, 445 for
Yeah, when
premium.
I see gas price above 4, I'm like, it's still too high. But when I see below 4, I'm like, okay, people are able to kind of like do a little bit of affordability. It's funny, John and I last week was talking about you at a gas pump right now probably would change back to premium.
Back.
Yeah. So, but I always, not that I'm predicting or anything like that, but because I'm just looking at just historical developments in the sense, looking at what Trump won, looking at the fact that we're in a midterm year, and looking at how markets are reacting to it, I definitely thought that there was gonna be, come like some sort of peace deal like this, and you could see the frustration when he's trying to get, this signing thing going, and Israel did their thing. I just like, bro, what the f y'all doing? It just goes to show, and it's ironic too, because you started this, bro, and then now you're gonna ask what they're doing. That's what the whole world was asking you. What were you doing? So it's like, oh, it's what you want. That's when we gotta chill out. And that's exactly what he's been about since he got into office. It's on mind terms, obsessed with past presidents and all. So I do think this memorandum is going to last maybe short period, and then something again happen. But going into the midterm, I think it's probably going to cool down a little bit. And looking at the primaries just now, I mean, it looks like midterm is not going to be in his favor.
Well, talking about the primaries, my friend, uh, the mayor of New York City was very successful in the candidates that he
Yeah,
endorsed. His candidates were able to take out two incumbent
yeah,
congressional candidates, incumbent state senator, incumbent uh, assembly members.
yeah,
You know, DSA did very well Tuesday night, and the question that the question is whether DSA is going to work together with the Democratic Party, or DSA is going to eliminate the Democratic Party. Remember, that aspect of DSA and socialism may work
Yeah.
in states like New York City,
Yep.
but you got to go upstate.
There's that.
You got to go to the suburbs, Long Island. And what impact would DSA's success here in the city have on the governor's race this year with Hochul versus Blakeman?
And it don't seem like Hochul is necessarily, how do I put this? I don't see her really endorsing the socialist aspect, as such really. So I think there
Because
may be,
she can't, because if she does, she will turn off the suburban votes and the votes upstate.
yeah.
And that's a problem. But you have the mayor who went against two sitting congressional people that both voted for that. Nidhi Velasquez supported Mandami. Espaillat supported Mandami. Reynoso, the borough president, supported Mandami.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole issue with Landa and Goldman was very interesting, is because one could say, even what happened to Goldman, I'm not a Goldman supporter, would never be a Goldman supporter.
Mm-hmm.
If I was in that race, if I was a candidate, if I was a constituent in that district, I would have voted for Landa. I would have not have voted for Goldman. I have my issues with Goldman, former prosecutor who always went after elected officials because they thought, all elected officials were corrupt.
Gotcha.
And that was their best way to break the stranglehold of the Democrats. Well, let me go after the elected officials. So goodbye.
Now he's an elected official.
Yes, goodbye Goldman. Good riddance to Goldman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it seems, with respect to Goldman, that whole anti-Israel sentiment, some might cloak it as anti-Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
The way he was in Williamsburg and they made that whole big commotion. He bought a coffee or whatever it is, and they make the statement, your money's no good here.
Oh.
That's what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, we may disagree on an issue. We may disagree on issues, but we are collectively together because for the greater good. That's the difference between us as Democrats and us as Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans don't eat their own. Democrats, socialists, DSA, they eat their own.
Yeah.
They eat their own. And, it's very...
Now with us, they're against us. That's the idea.
And if you look at the results, especially in the Espaillat against I don't know how to pronounce her name. Chevalier. She was in school with my daughter, so my daughter knows her at Columbia.
Yeah, Chevalier.
I don't want to, I'm sorry, Miss Chevalier. But it's interesting. If you look at the numbers in that district, for Espaillat, more older residents.
Yeah.
Espaillat had 60% of the vote. She got 31% of the vote. More younger residents. Chevalier got 59% of the vote. Espaillat only got 36% of the vote. My majority college-educated areas. Chevalier, she got 57%. The vote, he got 39%. Low-income areas, Espaillat got 52% of the vote. She got 42%. High-income areas, she got 51%. Espaillat got 41%. Majority black areas, Espaillat got 47%. She got 45%. Majority Hispanic, he got 56%. She got 40%. So what it shows you is that there was a comment by Michael Rappaport, the comedian. And his comment was, he says, DSA movement is a privileged young elites telling working class voters what's best for them. And if you think about that, majority of our voters are well educated, young voters who have a different philosophy, who have no sense of loyalty, don't understand the democratic process. They think they can come and blow up the democratic process in order to be heard. And I tell you, the best example is I told somebody, what has AOC done since she's been in Congress? How has her districts changed since she's been in Congress?
It hasn't. I mean,
You know, my whole point was people don't understand seniority in seniority in
mhm,
Congress means a lot.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And remember, your philosophy and ideology, in order for you to become the majority, that's what you're striving for.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hold on one second. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, you know, the objective of Congress, state senate, and the city council is to be in the majority. You have
Hmm.
to be in the majority to effectuate the policies that you want. So I can be in the minority and I can want everything. But when you get in the majority, you govern differently because you got to respect the issues and the ideologies of those other districts that are not like your districts. What we
Mm,
want here in New York City is not necessarily what the congressional districts in South Carolina want,
that's
in
true.
Denver want. Their issues are different. So as a leader, you have to be able to you have to be able to deal with all those issues. But everybody must understand you can only deal with those issues when you're in a position of strength. You can rant and rave, you can have all the protests you want. But if you're not in a position of strength, nothing is going to materialize for your people. So I say that to say this: there needs to be a more collaborative effort when it comes to trying to implement policy to really take care of your constituency.
Are you are you
Yeah.
saying then that the DSA they're not about the collaborative effort? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
to me, the DSA is either it's my issue, or it's
No issue.
nobody's issue.
So how do we get there then? Because I'll say this despite how they are, you know, and in spite of the victory, I would say here, I really do believe that Democrats are going to win elections, the midterms in November, just because of how things are. But still, going back to the first question you asked regarding how are they going to help with the governor race, um, how would that work then? Because if there's no necessarily agreement with Hochul, how would that work? Would that cost her? Like,
That could cost Hochul the election, because if
mm,
they're going to reserve their support, because if she doesn't believe on certain issues, that could be a problem. The whole point is to find. I may disagree on your issues. We probably can handle it, but it's important for Hochul to be in the position so we can have the dialogue and work towards an answer. But if I'm
mm,
not in the position, if I'm no longer the governor, what's the point? And that's
yeah.
my point. You're willing to eat. You're willing to devour the Democratic Party because they may not adhere to your issues. It's just like, on the night that the DSA candidates won, Hakeem Jeffries came on, and there was a crowd saying, "You're next, you're next, you're next." This is the leader of the Democratic
Oh man.
in Congress. And this is
Yeah.
the attitude and the dispositions that these young elite have. They didn't sacrifice what sacrifices they did. What sacrifices have they gone through?
I mean, are they really elite though? Because
If
even
you
when
look
I
at
was,
well,
and
well
I'm thinking,
let's go to the districts. Go to the districts with
mm,
Chevalier won.
mm.
Educated individuals, she won by 59%. College
Oh,
educated
oh,
individuals.
you're considering them elite? I I was like, wait, who's the elite here? Because I mean,
What about the working class people?
yeah,
You know what this is. You know what
they
it
may not
is.
want the
It's
same.
like it's like um it's like gentrification going on in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
You got the young DSA folks are moving in after the Democrats, the older ones, working class, done did all the work, laid all the grounds, laid all the foundations. They're coming in now and want to change the whole system. They want to blow up the whole system because they think
Isn't
by blowing up the whole system they will get what they want. But
I
it does not work that way. It's a
so
collaborative effort that you have to have in order to be successful. That's why we lost to President Trump. That's why the Supreme Court is 6-3.
the Supreme Court piece, the President Trump piece, maybe the first term, and I guess also the second term, if we exclude the aspect that um, how America treats women who are trying to go in office in the presidential race. That
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing, but I do think how Democrats rallied around Biden and even Kamala. That was I don't think it was the right thing. Too slow movements. But to your last point about the young, the elite, the DSA, what about someone says that, hey, they are trying to create a new way of civic engagement in terms of making your vote count, because we've done it the old way and we still do not have, I guess, the changes that we should and need to see. Then these are the new ways that we need to. And one may say too that this is how Mamdani end up becoming mayor, because there was so much rallying and so much support and so much of the annoyance of the old way in politics. And now we have Mayor Mamdani in office. What
Let me
is
ask
that?
you a question. With Mayor Mondami, so far he's been in office 6 months. What has changed? What new waves have changed? I'm asking everyone, what new ways have changed? You talk about maybe the whole daycare piece, or whatever it is. That's
Hmm.
fine. But no one has talked about the infrastructure that has to be put in place in order for that to
Don't that
in order
take
for that
time
to
though?
happen.
Don't that take time?
Yeah, exactly. It takes
Yeah,
time. And remember, he's saying he has such a huge budget deficit, but I don't hear no talk about the deficit no more.
that
Was
that
there
is true.
actually was there actually a deficit in the first place?
That is true. It did when I heard that part. It did seem like casting blame. That's what it seemed like. Because I mean, it just seems like that. But like you said, I haven't heard much about that anymore. So sometimes when things that happen, I'm like smokes and mirrors. Question mark. But that's a good point.
And my whole point was, hey, like anybody asked me, they always ask me about him. I said, you know what? You have to give him time. I agree. Give him time. He's just done 6 months. Give him time to do the budgets, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, just don't try. All of a sudden, the attorney general, who was all Mandami, saying, well, she's a little frustrated with him now because the way he supported these candidates, DSA candidates, against these incumbents, in which supported him. The bottom, from what it seems like, this ain't about loyalty, man. Democrats have no loyalty to one another. They have no loyalty. The Republicans are always in a better position because they're loyal. Trump may be the most despicable person to him, but they will stand with him. You know why? Because in order for them to stay in their office, in order for them to be in the majority, to get all the benefits of the majority, they'll do what they have to do. And this is one thing I can say about Newsom. Newsom, to me, is the only candidate now that is giving the Republicans what they have been giving us. He goes and challenges them. He goes and makes, he goes and criticizes them. He gives them nicknames like Trump. You know what I'm saying? You have to fight fire with fire.
I agree.
Because that's the only thing that they understand. Democrats always want to take the high moral ground. Always. But that high moral ground will get you nowhere.
I agree.
I believe the high moral, once I get in my position of strength, my power, then we can go back to the high moral ground at that point in time.
I can agree. I can agree with that. And as I've always say, it does feel like Democrats give off the superhero saving hero complex, whereas the Republicans them say, "Listen, I'm the villain. I don't gotta care about nothing. If I get my power, I got my power, and that's that." So
they have power that has an impact on us for decades.
Yeah.
Perfect examples is the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
People like, oh, Hillary Clinton. Oh, we don't like what she stands for. We don't like this. We don't like that about Hillary. It wasn't about Hillary. It was about being in the position of control to control the courts, the Supreme Court. You see all these decisions are coming down, tearing away our voting rights and stuff like that. That is because they have the majority. We don't understand that. We do not understand that. And the only way we understand that is when we're going to be stripped of everything that we have. All of a sudden, we did census every 10 years and change redistricting was every 10 years.
Yeah.
Redistricting every year, you know what? I'm glad what they did in California. If I'm going to do that in Texas, I'm going to do it in California. They tried to do it, I think, in Virginia. It didn't work out, but you tried. But you showed them, if you're going to fight, if you're going to do that, we're going to do the same thing. And that's that's the way you get respect, because you got to be willing, to the first lady, Michelle. She said, "When they go low, we go high." I believe in the philosophy: when they go low, we go lower.
At this point, man,
because you see what happens for us staying high like this. You see what happens. Our voting rights have been gutted.
Yeah.
DEI is a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
It's crazy. A 4-letter word. You talk about diversity. If you talk, that's taboo now.
Yeah. That's true.
You have the Department of Justice. I mean, it's just amazing. And like I tell villagers, this is what's going on is not a surprise to me, because President Trump is doing everything he told everybody what he was going to do. And I respect him for that. He said, this is what I'm going to do. And we knew ahead of time. And they did nothing about it.
That's true. So I guess not necessarily off the topic, but still connected really. They got the rent guideline board in New York City, and they're trying to they're holding their final vote either to freeze rent 0% or bring it up as at 4%. And so you got tenants argue increasing on supercharge, the ongoing homelessness, affordability crisis, amongst other things. You think that in the housing crisis right now, the city should be mandating a permanent rent freeze, protect the low income tenants, or even forcing small town landlords into bankruptcy? Like, what are your thoughts on
my thoughts are, first, let's go after the infrastructure.
Yeah.
The biggest obstacles to housing, to permanent housing, to temporary housing, is the Department of Buildings.
Mm-hmm.
The Department of Building has caused so many projects to be delayed, not months, not weeks, not months. We're talking about years, making it unsustainable to build here in New York City.
Yeah.
The unions understood it was getting too expensive, so therefore they said, let's work with the developers. Let's put some agreements together. Pay a little less wages so our union employees can get work on some of these projects. But the buildings department is constantly holding up permits, fines, levying fines, which is unsustainable for a developer to build here in New York City. You go to
Yeah,
other cities, other
expensive.
states, and it's expensive. It's not that expensive.
Yeah,
It's expensive, but not that expensive. The delays that is caused by the Department of Buildings is unsustainable. And that's one thing that this mayor needs to go about it, making the Department of Buildings more efficient and more responsible for those who want to build housing.
I
Now,
mean that's even part of his goal, isn't it? To the
yeah,
stabilizing rent.
and
So
that's
so
what he needs to blow
definitely
up.
looking to
He
hear more
needs
about that.
he needs to blow that up. Second thing is, you know what? You want to freeze the rents. Okay. I have no
Yeah.
problem when you want to freeze the rents. Freeze my real estate taxes, freeze my um
Property taxes.
freeze my the taxes and things that I have to pay to the city. Freeze those things.
The property
No, I
taxes
still have
that
to pay
continue
electricity.
increase.
Freeze them for me too.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking. Freeze them. If don't put no interest or penalties. Freeze them. I have no problem freezing rents because my expenses. Perfect example is fuel. Because of what happened with respect to Iran, fuel
Yeah.
prices have went up astronomically.
Yep.
I remember, I'm on I have oil in my home, and I'm on a budget plan where I pay $750 a month to my oil company for oil delivery and everything. In March, my oil company said, you're going to be running a deficit of about $5,000 or $6,000 at the end of the year because of
Damn.
the price of oil. Who's going to pay that? I'm going to have to pay that.
It's true.
Who do I pass it on? Can I pass it on to my tenants by increases or whatever it is?
You're not like the big companies, then, man. You can't just
But
pass it on.
that's you hit it right on the
Yeah.
head. The
Mhm.
small landlords are being hurt,
Yeah.
and a lot of these small landlords are African American and Caribbean Americans who
Yeah.
have bought homes. So they're the ones who are going to be happy. These bigger companies, they can absorb the hit to a certain extent, but the small mom and pop can't.
Yeah. And that's something that was also one of the things I always question when I hear politicians talk about the freezing the rent and all that. Like, if you freeze the rent or you lower it to such a degree, then what does the landlord do? A landlord that really, they got into real estate because they're also thinking about generational wealth, but they definitely want to help people. But now you make it wherein they're not gonna be getting much to pay their mortgage and all to make sure that property taxes pay all those fees. Like, how do you assist them? Now here you talking about, like you said, freeze my freeze my mortgage for me, please. Now hear none of
And
that.
the banks are not going to do that.
Yeah, banks is like, nope, you better pay up. Figure that out.
The banks are not going to do that. And again, not only the Department of Buildings, the court systems, landlord and tenant courts, it's confusion and chaos.
Yeah, it is
Tenants
that
can come
way.
here owing you rent for years.
Yep.
You can't get any justice. So if you're going to want to freeze the rents, change the infrastructure that is responsible for the shortages, for the foreclosures, for the repairs not being done. The
Yeah.
Department of Buildings, the housing HPD, Housing Presence Development, ready to go to put the violations on your house, and the court systems in order to deal with those tenants who are career tenants who don't want to pay rent. Because at the end of the day, the mortgage company wants their money. They don't want to hear anything else. Pay me my money. The city wants their real estate taxes.
Exactly.
Con Ed wants the payment of their electricity bills. And tenants want improvements on their apartments. So we are in all of don't don't punish me. Don't punish me because I bust my ass all my life
To get where I got to get
to
to.
get a piece of the American dream to get where I'm at. Don't take it from me to give it to others. I have no problem supporting others. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, don't punish me or don't make it look like it's a it's it's a it's taboo to be successful.
Yeah. So what would you suggest then? In this instead of freezing rents, which man, even just saying it, I'm like, come on now, where the money gonna come from? Instead of freezing it, what do you think that would have been a better
You
solution?
know, if I'm going to freeze the rents, I'm going to say what can I help the landlords? How can I help landlords out? If I'm going to freeze their rent, how can I help them out? How can I help them out, alleviate some of the pressure on them? You know, do I look at the real estate tax assessments? Uh, do I allow certain improvements uh, so they can benefit from them? Do I look at the Department of Building, how long it takes for these things to be built? So I'm looking at a holistic approach with respect to that.
Mhm.
If I'm going to limit your ability to get any increases, at the same time, I'm going to give you some benefit with respect to um, the expenses that you have to maintain these buildings.
Yeah, I think that's an important, a valuable aspect. I'm thinking of even like what about having a fund, right? Wherein the fund definitely help landlords and also help, I guess, the people who are in rent stabilized homes.
Or even that, helping the landlords out with their property insurance. You know,
That right there.
creating a fund or creating agencies that help them or with the backing of the city so they can get cheaper uh, uh, property insurance that can offset some of the to offset the lack of increases that you may get. You
Yeah.
know, think of something like that, man, to help me out. Don't take, you know, it, it, it just makes it seem that, you know, I'm going to be punished just because I bust my ass and work hard
Yeah.
to achieve something. You know, and you know it's interesting. You know, with all these young kids, you know, who like even I talked about my daughter. You know, they talk about you know, we got to give back. I said, you know what, you can give back because your parents bust their ass. They put we don't have to worry.
That is true. That is true.
You're not paying rent. You're not out there paying rent. You know what I'm saying? It's just like my niece. My niece was saying, yeah, you know, there shouldn't be increases and stuff like that. So I said, your parents own a home, right? So okay, they don't. What relief are they getting in? Their property taxes are going up. Who you think gonna pay that? They're gonna be paying that. So you know,
There's a lack of understanding. There's a lack of understanding there too, really, because when you see only the downtrodden side where people are struggling constantly, really, and then you're constantly told that the rich are the ones them who is causing this, and then the rich are the ones who have like the houses and all. It's like you make this connection of whoever have a home and be successful and they have either renting out, they are also the rich. And you really take a step back and really like that, like having conversation with someone, as you said, like your niece, and really reminding them it's not that easy. You have a certain privilege because mom and dad bust the behind to get where they are to make sure that you don't have to do that. Yeah, I think a lot of, I guess, even with the DSA, what I get from a lot of them, a lot of them has that mentality in a sense, and a lot of the solutions, even though we mention them here, while it may not be as easy as it sounds, but it's a step forward.
and my point is, just because we may disagree about it, that does not mean that I need to be canceled. We are
That's
big. No, no, no. We are big about that.
yeah,
If you can't agree with us, we need to cancel you. We need to do no. Let's have a conversation, have a dialogue, and see if there's some middle ground that we can come up with that all of us can support and understand.
certainly true.
But this is something that It's just like if we don't agree with you, then we want to cancel you.
Yeah,
There's no
definitely.
dialogue, man. There's no dialogue, bro. There's no dialogue.
I agree. I agree. Um, so something even similar to this theft, not theft, the housing issue. I've been hearing a lot about D theft,
Yes, yes.
right? And it's just unimaginable to know that somebody can just go online, change up whatever it is, and boom, like so there's the Brooklyn prosecutors indicted this man on 23 criminal counts for operating a sophisticated deed theft scheme. And the defendant, he allegedly targeted a 92-year-old Brooklyn homeowner suffering from dementia, forging legal documents to steal the ownership of the house, collect the tenant's rent, drain her savings. Officials even know that the deed theft has skyrocketed across Brooklyn, and is specifically targeting, of course, the vulnerable elderly homeowners in rapidly gentrifying neighborhoods. Gentrifying neighborhoods at that. So it's like it's so easy currently to file forged property deeds with this city. So is local government failing to protect generational wealth of elderly owners? What do you think?
I think it's a, it's a, it's a combination of, it's a combination. It's those family members who who have who fail to look out for those people who may be those family members who may be vulnerable or something like this. Uh, Also, the infrastructure.
Yeah,
Uh, so when these transactions are taking place, there needs to be more the banks or the institution. There need to be a little bit more thorough investigation when things like this happen. But sometimes these deals are all cash deals.
there's
But
that.
then
Yep.
you have the title companies. The title companies need to be put on notice also that they can be responsible for something like this. And I think once you start putting some responsibilities on these title companies, they're going to start questioning some of these transactions.
Yeah, when you start questioning those who this power control, they start to really say, "Oh shoot, this person is smart, this person intelligent." You part of this DTF itself to even prevent it. You also have to do due diligence,
Right, right.
right? Knowing where you sign, know what you gotta check up with. Um, it kind of reminds me, maybe not necessarily the same thing, but even how with squatters, the squatters law itself. You can squat in there for some time, and I guess depending on circumstance, you can do something similar, you know. Um, but that definitely is a problematic thing. So should the penalties for white collar real estate fraud against senior citizens be upgraded to mandatory, maximum security, prison sentences equivalent to violent crimes? I guess because it's senior citizens. You think it should be upgraded, or is just not not as serious?
The DDEF has been a serious issue. A lot of times in the Bedford Stuyvesant community, uh, Harlem community, you know, people taking advantage of those who are more vulnerable. So we as a community need to, be a little bit more involved with those seniors and stuff like that that are in these homes who may be living alone. People
Hmm.
taking advantage. We see something strange. We need to, ask questions. But
Yeah,
we
like
have such a hands-off approach when it comes to dealing with our neighbors. It's not what it used to be. Like you said,
yeah,
to be the village, man. It was a village
yeah.
to come together and we look out one another. You know.
I
So
mean, I always think, when did this shift happen, really, man? When did this shift happen? Because people used to really look out, like you said. I remember even growing up back home, nothing happening with me 5 blocks from home, and my mom or my dad don't know. Like they'll know, because Miss Marcy would make sure that she She march up there and talk with them, or they meet somewhere and they say, 100 this and 100, or such and such happening. So be careful there. Now you will look through, see something, and just keep going. I don't know when that shift happened.
No, it shouldn't be like that, man. It's a collective, and we need to operate like a collective, like we used to, But a lot of times, these parents are just like, "Oh, don't talk to my child like that." You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
you don't want to engage.
yeah,
It becomes so hostile in your communities. There's no more cohesiveness like it used to be.
definitely.
We're old school, but it is what it is. That's how
Yeah,
the community. That's how our communities, were run and should be ran today.
nah, I can agree with that. So one of the things Benev, as Roderick used to say, the village pessimist, right? He had earlier said that the technology stuff is no good. Kids are too reliant on it. Kids don't even know how to be original. Excuse me. And I mean, I've seen that quite a lot of times this year for my students. Them really, it just makes me think about. I'm just reading through the comments. This itself made me just think about learned helplessness and productive struggle, right? You see a kid struggling, don't rush to try and like help them right away. Observe, see how they kind of like manage out of it. And just a guide, be a guide. Um, uh, Sherry Ann was good. Um, Jalen said howdy.
What's up, Jalen? What's up, Jalen?
All right,
Dr.
and
Bryan is not around tonight. My villagers. She has her school graduation today and also their prom.
yeah,
So
you know,
kudos, congratulations to those students.
definitely. And then Benev also say here that Mom Donnie's worse than Adams.
You know what? As I said, he's been in office 6 months. Let's see
Yeah,
what.
that's what I was saying. I'm saying to 6 months. I mean, do you think 6 months is too is a good enough time to make some serious
No,
change?
I,
Or
I I think let's see what happens to the budget. The budget is usually reflective of your ideology. So let's see what the budget looks like.
let's come on like around what?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Hold on, hold on there, John. Yeah, Terry coming off here. I just gotta update this for real quick. Um, when the budget come out again? And John, you muted, John.
The fiscal year starts the first. I think the budget has to be ready by the 30th.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely that is gonna be quite. It's gonna be quite interesting to see where mindset is and all. Um, you know, have you been keeping up with the World Cup? And Terry is about to come on a little bit. Have you been keeping up with World Cup?
About the what?
World Cup, World Cup.
No, no, man. That's not my forte, man.
Gotcha.
Once the Knicks won that championship, man, after 53 years, man, that was
That
uh,
was a
that,
celebration right
that
there,
was a celebration, man. I'm still trying to celebrate, still watching all the reruns because
man.
I can't watch the games as actually happening because it's just
Yeah,
too much stress, man.
really.
Yo, man, I can't watch it.
Wow.
Nah, I cannot watch it. I
I'm,
don't need
I'm.
to have a stroke or a heart attack for me to definitely give you one.
Oh man, and I'm laughing and everything, but those things are serious. Yeah, because people so passionate about it.
That's
You
what I'm
know.
saying, man. You passionate after 53 years, they see the damn, and I can't. But I don't know what's going on with my Mets.
Mm,
David, to Mr. Cohn,
mm,
you should have fired David Stern. He
man,
is a horrible general manager.
mm,
He has destroyed the New York Mets.
man, man. Oh, I track is my thing too, but I remember I was glued to even that last game. I was watching them, but that last one, I was on there. Jalen Brunson, man. You're gonna be a talk for a long time.
Oh man, that
Yeah.
game 4, man. The
Yeah.
OG, the hand.
Yeah, that
The
was
hand of OG.
my man. Like it was like So Dr. Terry is with us right now. Thumbs up when you're
Dr.
ready,
Terry,
Terry.
Dr. Terry.
All right. I think she's ready. Thumbs up. Let me see. You ready? All right.
Hello. How are you?
How you doing? How you doing? Welcome.
Dr. Coaxum, thank you very much for being here on the Village. And first of all, I want to congratulate you for all your accolades, especially
Congrats.
this year, and your accomplishments.
Thank you.
And you know what? I would like you to introduce yourself to the villagers.
That's what Joan usually say.
Well, first of all, just I'm excited. I'm super excited to be on. John Sampson is one of the godfathers, so he's doing this thing. He's always doing it well. Andre, very nice to meet you today. I'm just excited. I'm excited to be here. By way of background, I teach at Medgar Evers College. I teach organizational theory, New York State and local government, and I also am a consultant. So I work with small businesses. I work with MWBEs. I help them get contracts. I start business. I help them, nonprofit organizations. I help them get their grants. Before I doing this work, and I also have like several programs in the DOE schools. We have the steel pen, the martial arts, step dancing, culinary. We do a lot just to help develop our youth. And prior to that, I was the Region 2 advocate for the Small Business Administration under President Barack Obama, where I covered New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, just working with small business on their issues and their concerns. I was an advocate for them. Prior to that, I was Senator Schumer, Chuck Schumer's deputy state director for 6.5 years, first African-American woman to hold that job. And now I'm just taking everything that I have and pouring it into everyone that I come in contact with. So my goal is to die empty, to be able to really share all that God has given to me with others. So I'm here. I'm ready. I work part-time for State Senator Kevin Parker, as you know, John. He's one of the hardest working senators out there, hardest working elected officials out there. And he's always doing phenomenal things. So I do some programming for him and have a lot of fun doing it. I love the work that I do. So I think that's the difference. It doesn't feel like work.
No, we appreciate all you've done, especially helping MWBEs getting that certifications so they can get a job out, get contracts from the city, the state, and also the federal government. But Terry, one thing I want to raise with you is what is your assessment? Because I know you're very known in the political circles. What's your assessment of what happened on Tuesday?
What is my assessment? So, first of all, I think that we all need to kind of reflect on what happened on Tuesday. I think a few things happened on Tuesday. I know, John, for a long time I've been in this game doing the thing. I started in politics when I was about 17 years old in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I was working at, getting ready to date myself. I was working at matter of fact, the Hanover Trust Bank, Manny Hanny, and was introduced. My mentor at the time was Marty Needleman, who was running Brooklyn Legal Services A. And he introduced me to Vito Lopez, and I drank the Kool-Aid. And so I've been in this thing a long time, from Brooklyn, from working with Brooklyn Unidos, from working with Richard Bushwick. And one of the things that we did back then, I think we did not do on Tuesday, and that was get people to the polls. It is, first of all, you have to identify your voters, right? So I feel like we were playing from an old playbook. I feel like, we did not get our voters to the poll. If I look at these numbers, and they're saying 11% came out and this low number came out, the only thing I can think of is who is identifying the voters and who is getting our voters to the polls. We didn't depend on them to get there on their own. We literally drove them there. We had our events, we got everybody together, and we provided transportation to the individuals. So looking back at what we did in the beginning and how we did it then, even when when Clarence Norman was the leader, even when Vito was the leader, even going all the way back to Evander Beatty and all these other people, we got people to the polls, and I think that that's what the other side is doing. They're not just and they're not just coming and just being in place. They're bringing their people with them, and I think that that is a huge difference. And so we lost a lot of ground, but I don't want us to be discouraged by it. I want us to be woke by it. I want us to understand that we've been here a long time. A lot, Brooklyn, Brownsville, Crown Heights, not Brownsville, Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights. We lost a lot of ground, but it's not over. I think that what we need to do is to reassess what we did that worked. We need to not continue to use the same old playbook. We need to really engage our voters. I think one of the telltale signs was on election day. One of my neighbors, older woman, she's been working for Con Edison for about 30 years. So she's knowledgeable. She's voted for years. And I asked her, a Caribbean woman, I said, don't forget to vote. She said, oh, I don't do that anymore. What? What do you mean? What do you mean you don't do that anymore? My ancestors died for us to be able to vote, to be able to have a voice. So I think that what we need to do with all of the law, because we lost major seats, like we lost a lot of real good ground. One of the ones that really hurt my heart more than most is Stephanie Zinnerman, because she did the things, John. She was at the senior center. She was stopping individuals.
But Terry, my thing is,
their homes.
with this, the DSA, we got to be these are the candidates who won were DSA candidates, and it seems like they're basically trying to eliminate the Democratic Party, or to eliminate the Democratic ideology to a ultra leftist ideology.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And it's like we set the groundwork, we set the foundation. It's like gentrification. We did everything. We sacrificed. Then all of a sudden, you have this movement of DSA, which is a movement of privileged young elites, who are just coming in the community and just taking over, espousing all these ideologies, but never sacrifice. Coming from these elite schools, their parents are paying their rents and everything else. They didn't have to sacrifice like the people who in these communities who ran for office or in positions. And I always say, what have they done any differently? I say, what has AOC done for her district?
Right. But see, the thing that they forget about it is, yes, they come in, they bring all of these ideologies, they bring all of these things, but what they don't bring is the experience. What they don't bring is what they don't understand is that being a legislator is being a compromiser. You have to compromise to get things done for your district. You're not going to be able to deliver for your district if you're not able to have a communication with your colleagues. They're not going to listen to you. Even when I think about when I was working for Senator Schumer, there's 100 senators here. And it's about 10 pots of money. So we have to decide what's best for all of our districts. And so if there's one person saying, I'm not going to sit down with you because I don't like your position on X, Y, and Z, then you're not going to be able to deliver the infrastructure projects. You're not going to be able to deliver on healthcare. You're not going to be able to deliver on education. You're not going to be able to deliver on affordable housing. You're not going to be able to deliver. And then what happens? What happens? These individuals that voted for you based on what you said you were going to be able to deliver on, you now cannot deliver on that because you're a legislator that has decided that you were going to be on an island by yourself. It's okay to have your opinions. It's okay to want more, because we all want more for our communities. We've been working hard in the trenches for a long time to make sure that we're delivering for the community. So we all want that. But what you cannot do is not understand how the process works and get into the process. You need to know how the process works.
So, I mean, yes, I agree with the process. As I was even saying to John, in terms of the old way or traditional way, I guess even diving in and understanding the process, would you say that could be what's happening with the way they're doing it right now?
I think a few things are really happening, Andre. If we really want to look at it, I think a lot of people are hurting and feel like they're not getting their just due. And I think instead of us engaging them and bringing them into the forefront, bringing them in this case, bringing them to the voting polls, getting them in the door. You know, Kevin says this thing all the time, John, and it makes me laugh, but it's true. He said, I'm not trying to make atheist Christians. I'm trying to get the Baptists to come to church. So I'm not trying to change who people are. I'm trying to get them to be in the process, because if you're not in the process, you're not going to be able to change anything. So your non-vote is actually a vote. After a lot of our great leaders lost that have been doing the things, right? I asked questions to my neighbors and they were like, oh, well, I'm going to vote in the general election. I'm like, the primary made the decision of who's going to be on your ballot in the general election. And they were shocked. They were like, well, there is no do-overs.
But that's the information that a lot don't know, you know, because even I probably want to say even a few years ago, really, I guess not necessarily thinking about the primaries or even the midterms itself, more so the general. Most people always just thinking about the general. So now I'm also thinking it has to do with the media, because if you turn on ABC or CNBC or any one of those channel news, you're not getting coverage like that on the primaries or the midterms. But when it comes to the general, the entire channels, all of them are plastered with, you know, who's running for presidency and so on. And I think,
well, Andre, I think that has changed somewhat. They started paying a little bit more attention to these primaries, you know, because I know MS Now, when they talked about, and I was even watching Fox on the day after the primaries, and they were concerned because they're saying some of them are concerned because this is the ideology that's taking over here in New York City, but that ideology won't work in Denver. That ideology won't work in the South. That ideology doesn't work in those what we call those what's those states that we always call the
red states.
No, not the red states. The ones on election that we always try with what is it, Terry? What is it?
You're talking about an election night, the state. So you're talking about
the states that everybody you have your Democratic states, Republican states, the states that are toss-ups.
I know what
you're talking about. It's on my mind. Let me pull it up for you as you're going through it. But talk to me a little bit about the ideology why the ideology won't work in those places.
But because it won't be
swing states.
The swing states.
In
the swing states, these ideologies don't work. You know what I'm saying? Because you have people like the best example I think is going to happen this year in the governor's race. This socialism, the DSA ideology is not going to work in the suburbs or upstate.
Right.
In those swing counties that, you know, Hochul's going to need to win. She didn't raise taxes. What she said, I'm not going to raise income taxes on people, but I'm going to raise taxes on those homes who you know, those secondary homes that are $5 million or more. Who's going to push back against that? But my problem with that is it goes from $5 million to $2 million to $1 million, and then it's going to capture a lot more people. Take for example, my father left me a home in Bed-Stuy. House is worth $5-6 million now.
That's right.
You know, I'm going to be hit for that.
That's right.
You know, I'm not the 1%ers. You know what I'm saying? So be careful what you ask for.
That's right.
Be careful what you ask for.
I think what we need to do, because again, I always go to solutions, right? I think what we need to do is we have to get back to the basics, right? We have to identify our voters and we have to engage them to get them into election day. Because yes, we're going to have a general election that's going to look very different than anything that we've ever had before. But we also have to understand then there's a next cycle coming. So, you know, this is set a precedent for what to expect moving forward. So we have to be ready so we don't have to get ready. Like this was an opportunity now for them to now show us, you know, what they can do when folks don't come out to vote. They talk about this being one of the lowest voter turnouts. So if this can happen when folks don't come out, can you imagine what happens when folks do come out? When folks realize what happens in this primary election and how much ground we've lost, how much it set us back, they're going to be more than concerned about what their next is going to look like. We're talking about making a New York City affordable. This isn't going to make a New York City affordable.
Because they're not going to have people in the positions to push to make New York City affordable. When you had Espaillat, who was the head of the Hispanic caucus,
right? And that's you had leadership. You had leadership that had tenure that was able to make things happen. And folks forget about that. You're talking about, and that's when they start talking to me about, well, this person has been in leadership for this many years. Do you know it takes that many years to be able to get your caucus to do what you need them to do to deliver for your community? It takes years to do that. You just don't, get elected today and become the leader tomorrow. Like, I don't know,
Terry, but you're right. But all these people who got elected, they'll see for themselves.
Yeah.
They'll see that they're not going to be able to implement any policies. They're talking about Hakeem. They better hope Hakeem can get the majority.
That's right. That's right. Because that's the only way that we're going to get things delivered to New York if we have the majority. We got to have the majority in order to be able to do, and have a leader like Hakeem and a leader like Chuck that are not afraid to make the tough decisions and call it for New York the way it should be called for New York. And that is the bottom line. But I'm disappointed at how much ground we lost, but I don't think that people really understand it. The folks that did not come out to vote, which if you did not come out to vote, you then decided that you didn't have a voice. I tell my students all the time, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So you now decided to be on the menu. And the menu is going to be eaten on it by any means necessary. And you're going to find yourself in positions that you're going to say, where are my elected officials? Like, I still have people that are talking about calling Stephanie to do X, Y, and Z. Well, where were you on Tuesday?
Why do you think that this is something that is continuously happening? Because I know we talk about this a lot on the show in terms of the youth not feeling like they have a voice and then decide not to go out and vote, which of course is a vote in itself. Why do we have so much of that? And the other question is, I guess, considering what you do, Dr. Coaxum, what is it that you do that could get them to come out? And the reason why I'm saying that, when I think about voters consistently talking about inflation, the housing costs, rent stabilization, among other things, why is it that they don't get out? And what is being done to ensure that happens?
So one of the things that I do is that, I make my students accountable, right? So one of the, and John knows Adelaide Sanford. I remember having a long conversation with Adelaide, much younger, when I was doing things in business. And we were at I forget the event, but I remember the circumstances. It was 3 men on stage telling women what they needed to do to be able to build wealth. And I looked at Adelaide and was like, but they're not talking to me. So how do I get to the people that look like me to do? And she said, you start with the children, right? So you start with the young people. You start having them understand that they should have a voice right now. So one of the things I do in my organizational theory class is I make all of my students commissioners, future commissioners on day one, and I give them a commission. And so if you're the chancellor, you're assigned to be the chancellor for the first 15 minutes of class. Every class, we talk about what's going on in the world. And everybody's responsible for bringing in an article about what's going on in the world. It's something that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be your commission. But if you just happen to talk about someone else's commission, then we tag that commissioner in, right? So if you're talking about one of the things that came up was phones, right? Not having phones in your school. So what does that mean? And so someone brought an article about that. Well, what about our safety? What about all these things going on? And I said to the student that was assigned the DOE chancellor, I said, future chancellor, how would you handle this situation? And they actually walked us through it, because not only are you now looking at that commission, you're now paying attention to everything that goes on around that commission. You're paying attention to what works, what doesn't work. And then at the end of it, I have them write a paper about their commission. So then they have to give me the mission and the vision of their commission, what's right, what's wrong with their, and how would they change it. They have to come up with a solution. You got to end with a solution. But what I realize is I'm engaging them. I tell them about their precinct community councils and their community boards, and I give them extra credit if they can tell me who your elected officials are and what they're responsible for. I had adults calling Chuck's office talking about a pothole.
Yeah,
He is a federal legislator. Why are you calling me asking about your pothole, man? But it's an education piece. And so I took the opportunity to teach them who their city council members are, talked about their community board. So you have to engage them from the ground. You have to let them know today, but you have to not just engage them, you have to give them power. You have to empower them on that level. You have to make them understand that this is something that you can actually do. Be your future commissioner now. It's not when you graduate with your degree. You're now. My New York State and local government, I make them elected officials. I talk about the branches of government. I put them in the Senate. I put them in the Assembly. I put them in the mayor's office. I put them in the governor's office. And every week we talk about those different. My students, they were so funny. It was like, wait, we got a New York State Constitution? I said, absolutely. Let's go through it. Let's look at the U.S. Constitution versus the New York State Constitution. Let's look at the statutes. Let's look at the rules. And they were very surprised at things that they can change right now. That's how you engage them. For the other members that are disengaged, the older members, the members that are in our age bracket, we have to meet them where they're at. We have to understand that people are hurting. We have to understand that New York isn't really affordable for several different reasons. But we need you to understand that if you don't come out and vote for the elected officials that are doing the things, that you're not going to have your voice heard, right? So just because it's not happening as fast and quickly as you want it to, it don't mean it's not going to happen. And here is the process for how it works, and help them to understand that there is a process to this thing. And then make them a part of the process. As a matter of fact, next time we come and have this meeting, bring your neighbors with you. Bring your whatever. For us, it's the seniors. The seniors suffer in silence. They're losing their homes and they're embarrassed and they don't want to talk about it. Now, I need you to talk about it, because the only way that I can get you help is you talk about it. So it's an engagement. It's an education piece. It's meeting people where they're at. And it's starting with the young people. Get the young people to bring the older people out.
And it definitely starts in the classroom. I was about to say the word that you said, engagement. So even like student government, not just in the school, but even having it in the classroom, or giving the students them roles, make them have their, like a little village in the classroom.
Absolutely.
I did something, connected to my PBL the other day, because I teach in Brownsville with my 8th graders. And one of the part of the projects was really, how are you going to leverage sponsorship, community leaders, donations? And, I bring up the city council. I ask them, who's your city council in Brownsville right now? And quickly, a lot of them really do their little search and all. And so that was just that starting piece right there. If they know the elected official, and then even playing that role, as you highlighted, it gets them understanding, fairness, equity, all that stuff, really. And it builds through. So, it definitely starts in the classroom in that sense.
And I've seen it work. I've had interns that, we plant the seed and they run for office and get elected, right? So it's about making sure that they understand there's a process. You're not going to wake up to today and be a leader tomorrow. There is some things that some stakes you need to put in the ground. I always tell my students, I said, in order to have a strong foundation with a strong roots is a strong tree, right? So if you're just starting from the top of the tree, that's going to be a hollow foundation for you to stand on. You have to bring your roots. You have to have a strong root in order for you to have a strong tree. And when you explain it to them, and that tree takes, it takes time. I tell people all the time, especially when I talk to my small businesses, I'm like, you want this to happen overnight, but it takes 9 months to incubate a baby, right? That baby you just don't have a baby, right? So if there's a process for that, there's a process for everything, and just help them through the process. Because a lot of time it's just the education piece. And I think we have to do a better job at it now, especially, John, since we've lost so much ground. We've lost a lot of ground, which means that we're going to lose a whole lot more before we get into a place to be able to pivot.
And Teri, just on that note, and I agree with you, and I just want to thank you for coming out, and we definitely want to have you back so you can help us, to really understand, this process, and how can we get our people more engaged so they can understand and they're not falling okey doke to the rhetoric that's just being espoused. As they say, faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
We have a lot of rhetoric, but we have no execution.
Yeah.
That's right.
But we have no execution, no change in policies. In order to change those policies, there has to be a collaboration with those who are in power until you get into power to get what you can.
That's right.
So you can regain power.
That's right. And so we need to make sure that we, from this point where we're at, John, where we're at, Andre, we need to now don't stop having a conversation that you're having with your eighth graders, Andre. First of all, that's huge, right? Because you're not just planting and seeding your eighth grader. Your eighth grader is going to have this conversation with their parent, and that parent is going to have the conversation with the community, and the community is going to have a conversation with the area, and before you know it, it's fire, right?
Domino effect right there.
That's how you're going to get it done. For us, John, we now have to sit back and reflect on all of the leaders that we've lost along this way, and figure out how to build this root so strong that we won't buckle and break in it, right? And we know there is a lot of great leaders that are still here, that are still doing the things, and I don't want them to be discouraged by what just happened, right? I want them to be empowered by what just happened and understand that they can make the change. Because again, John is about solution. It's about the solution. What we do, okay, we're here, right? That doesn't change. We're here. Now what do we do? What is the solution for where do we go from here? One piece is the education piece, making sure our young people understand. The other piece is our senior piece, right? There was a couple of seniors that I found out later on needed rides to get to the polls. That should identify your voters, right? And make sure they're getting to the polls. That is basic one-on-one. Make sure that is a part of this conversation, John, that we have moving forward, because if we're missing out on the basics, we're going to have another wave of what just happened.
And another basics that, I know we got to go, Andre. I know I see the signal, but another one of the basics that I was telling somebody yesterday, Aldemado was successful. You know why he was successful? Because he made sure he did the small things that his constituents can see.
Yeah.
Everything from filling the potholes, everything to making sure the Little League got the money so the kids can play, making sure the local volunteer fire departments, they got those resources, because people saw it on a day-to-day basis. Right now, what people are hearing because of social media and everything is all the rhetoric. They're seeing all the rhetoric, they're seeing everything else, but they're not seeing the work done.
That's right. So they have to see the work. The work has to be seen. So it can no longer be done in silence. If you're doing the work, just like they're what they're doing, you have to make sure that it's catching fire the way what you're doing, Andre, with the eighth grade, the way what you've done, John, the way what I'm doing in the classrooms, it has to catch fire. People have to see what we're doing so they can understand that we're doing something, because you're right. They feel like we're not doing anything, we're not delivering, because they don't see it. But what they didn't see with Alika and all of the housing that she was getting done, right? They were like, oh, you're not coming to our, but I'm making sure that you have a foundation, that I'm leaving a legacy, that I'm making sure that the next generation and the next generation are going to have all of this, right? So you're absolutely right, John. That's something that is another part of the solution, making sure that folks are seeing that you are doing the work, you're getting it done. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
being on the show tonight. You have a super amazing night on purpose. And let's
appreciate it.
We'll see you back again.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Coaxum.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right. Thank you, villagers, for joining us to another Thursday. Hope that you all enjoy the show with Dr. Teri Coaxum, myself, and John Sampson. Right. Enjoy the week. Keep doing what you all doing, man. Remember, we strive for financial well-being, safety, and just making sure that we don't just speak about success, we do it. All right. Enjoy the week. All right, John. Peace out.
All right. Peace out.